Hello, I'm Lori with Quilters Headquarters in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This evening we're going to be working on Nature's Lodge by Winging a Prayer, and we are going to be doing block 3 tonight. Block 3, right there. All right, pretty simple block. We have a few half square triangles, easy unit to make, square and a square, and some flying geese. Well, actually it's just flying geese and then it becomes a square and a square. So hang on, we'll get started. So the first unit that we're going to make is our half square triangles. All right, so we're using fabric 7 and 8 paired up and fabric 5 and 10. So these are my 7 and 8s here. Try to get out of the shadow. 7 and 8s here and 5 and 10 here. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those up. And you guys have seen me do this before, but we will go over it again. So I'm not drawing my lines. Basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sewing a 1/4 inch each side of center. Okay, so if I were drawing a line, I would draw a line a 1/4 inch away from each of the center line, right? I'm going to use my diagonal seam tape tonight. It's really makes it a lot easier to use than having to go draw lines. I don't see my roll of it, but you can see it on my machine here. Diagonal seam tape is made by Cluck Cluck Sew, and I have it at my shop. You can buy it at, well, quiltersheadquarters.com. Oh, here it is, diagonal seam tape. I have been asked to do a video on how to put it on your machine so it's straight and clean, so I will be doing that one of these days. So here's this pair that I'm going to be doing and this pair that I'm going to be doing. So we will sew on both sides. So put my 7 and 8 together, and as you've seen me do before, I'm going to be putting this corner of my pair right to the side of my presser foot, so 1/4 inch away from the needle. I'll lift that up, get a stitch, 1 or 2 stitches into the fabric, and then I come down here and I line up this corner with the outside edge here, the black line that's a 1/4 inch away from the middle. And I'll follow that black line all the way up. And then eventually I'll turn that around and do the other side. We're going to do a little chain piecing here to begin with. And what's nice about doing it this method is if you don't sew perfect, it's fine. You're going to trim it down to, I believe, 2.5 inches. So I'll pair these up. And these up. These are Batiks, so I can't tell the right side from the wrong side, so I don't worry too much about it. Use my cutting gizmo to cut these apart quickly and easily. And then I'll turn them around and I'll go down the other side. Okay, next step, I'll be cutting them apart right down the middle, just like that. think I'll try doing 2 at a time. I think I can do that. Match up my corners, cut down the middle, corner to corner. Should work just fine. Ah! Always lock my cutter even when I lay it down for a second. Just a good habit. Corner to corner. I like these cutters. They're just easy to lock. That just unlocks it. Turn it around, it's locked. So it's just a habit for me. I just lock it. You drop it on your foot or accidentally grab hold of it and it pushes the blade out. It's just bad. All right, I'm going to take this over and press to, she doesn't really tell us what side to press to, so I will decide and let you know when I come back. Okay, I am back and I am going to cut these. I'm going to trim the half square triangle units. Pardon the noise. I'm going to trim the half square triangle units to 2.5 inches. And I'm going to use my Quilters Select ruler. I like it because it has a surface on the back side that absolutely does not slide on your fabric. So you can put it on your fabric and your fabric stays with your ruler. So I'll just trim 1 or 2 under here, under the camera, and then I'm going to go to a taller table to do the others. So I'm laying my diagonal line right down the seam here. It's probably hard to see because these lines are so close, or the colors are so close. But I'm going to trim up one end. I'll turn it around and lay the good corner that I just trimmed on my 2.5 inch line, and the diagonal line going up the seam again. So it's going to end up just perfect. All right. So there's one trimmed up. I'm going to put it on pause here and I'll go trim up the rest of them at a taller table. Be right back. Okay, that didn't take long. So I trimmed them all up to 2.5 inches. I did press them open. I couldn't really figure out a better way. When in doubt, I just press open. All right, so I have those set up. And then the next thing we'll do is make this unit here. All right, so I have my 2.5 inch square there, and that is fabric 3. These 2 fabrics here are fabric 5, which is this red business. And let's see, we are going to make 4 of these. 2, 3, 4 this way, like that. 4 this way, like that. And then these are, let's see, fabric 7 is the lighter of the 2. So that is going to go on the inside. All right, so I'm going to sew those together just like that. And I shall be right back. Okay, I got the 2 half parts sewn together. So then I lay them out again, just to make sure I don't screw things up. And it should look like that. And by the way, I pressed to the full square here, so that away. And this one I pressed towards the bluer that away. And that way when I sew these two together, those two seams will nest perfectly in there like so. All right. So here we go. Some people like to watch me sew and just fast forward through it. So I guess for sewing these pieces together, we'll do that this time. I always match my seams first and then hope like crazy they come out right at the points here. And so far they do. I can feel that the seams are matched. I usually don't have too much trouble. All right. Those 4 pieces are sewn together nicely. And I'll take them over to my ironing. And I'm thinking I can split it like this. And I can lay that center seam perfectly flat. So this one's going this way, this one's going that way. And I got a little 4 patch in the middle. So that's how I'm going to press these. Okay, they came out pretty good. I have a pretty perfect middle point there. Pretty perfect. One didn't turn out so good, but I'm going to leave it. It's not horrible. That's this one. I knew it when I sewed it together too. I could feel it, but I'm going to let it go because in the grand scheme of things, that little tiny business isn't going to be noticeable. So the next thing we're going to do now is we are going to make our flying geese. So we have 2 sets of flying geese that we're going to make. And by now you probably know the drill. So we'll be laying out these 2 just like so. Now on these I do draw my lines, and that is because my tape over here, you probably can't see it, is not long enough. So here it doesn't go long enough to the end of the table to guide me all the way through to the end. So I am going to go ahead and draw my lines, and to do that I use my handy dandy ruler here and my handy dandy Bowen chalk pen, and I'm going to just draw my sew lines on both sides with my Quilter's magic wand, and I'm going to go ahead and do this on all of my wing squares. All right, and I will be right back. Okay, a lot of you have seen me do this before, but for those of you who maybe didn't catch it the first time or are new to us on this video, I'm going to show you again. So this is, I will be using the Deb Tucker's wing clipper ruler eventually, and I guess there is a Creative Grids magic wing, a Creative Grids Ultimate Flying Geese ruler too that I have also used, and they're both fine tools, but both of them will leave 2 extra layers right at the point of your flying geese. And so I like to eliminate 2 extra layers because it's already thick enough. And to do that, I lay my ruler corner to corner like this. I draw a line on this goose wing and a line on this wing. And I'm going to cut those lines, cut those corners right off, just like that. Okay. Just like that. I cut right on the line. So now when I lay these down on my bigger piece, and I'll be sewing down my chalk lines here, but these two now will meet, and if you have a little gap like that, it's okay. So these two meet right there. That's what we want, and that is going to eliminate 2 extra layers that are useless in the ultimate end of this. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to sew all of these right down the middle like this. I'll do both sets of flying geese, and I'll be back to cut them apart. Okay, so I sewed both lines right here on both pieces. Easier to see on my red than it is on my darker colors. And now I'm going to cut that out in between. Just cut corner to corner right between the lines. Makes about approximate a 1/4 inch seam in there. When I was sewing this one, for some reason, one of my wings flew away, and I was sewing way off into the nowhere, and I had to tear it out. All right, so now I'm going to press these this way, and then I will be laying this piece. Now notice I didn't have to cut a corner off of this piece. You don't have to do it, only on 2 pieces. And then I'm going to sew these 2 lines, all right? Easier to see on the red ones, I think. So I'll press this away. And I'm going to sew, see my white lines there? That's my sew lines. I'll lay this up in the corner, just like that. And then I'm going to be sewing these 2 lines. I'll come back and cut those apart. Okay, I've got them pressed. And I'm going to go ahead and lay my other squares down and sew them on. Just like so. So I'm just going to follow the line. Now, if I was thinking ahead, I actually wouldn't have had to draw the lines on the last 2. I could have followed my diagonal seam tape, but I was not thinking ahead. Would have saved me a little bit of time. See, I could follow, like right here, I would follow the black line on this side of the seam tape with my corner of my goose. I guess this eliminates some confusion. But once you get used to it, you would be able to figure it out and save some time. I always use leaders and enders, then I don't get the points of my fabric down in the feed dogs. On this machine I probably wouldn't anyway, but I just like to do it. I don't get any thread boogers anywhere. All right. So the next step is going to be to cut these apart, corner to corner, just like that. And then I'll take them away, I'll cut them apart, I'm going to press them all, and then I'll show you how to trim them up to perfect. Okay, I'm back. So I got these all nicely pressed. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use our wing clipper See if I can get that on the camera here. We're going to use our wing clipper from Studio 180 to do some trimming here. And we want our blocks to come out at 2.5 by 4.5. So this line right here goes all the way down from the corner to the bottom. That's going to be your first seam line. So you're going to lay that on this seam line here. Let me get those greens don't show up very well. So right here. So this line here is going to lay here, and then one of these X's, the one that is the 4.5, is going to lay right in the corner here. And I'll show you what I mean. All right, so this line goes on this seam. This line goes right here on the other seam. And this X lines right up perfect right there. So I'll go ahead and trim 2 sides. And I'll turn it around. And now this time, I have my 4.5 line here, my 2.5 line here. I'll lay that right on the good corner that I just trimmed up. And then my X right here matches still again perfect. And I'll trim that up. Now for those of you who like to use Creative Grid's Ultimate Flying Geese ruler, I have one of those here as well. I'm not quite as well versed on this one, but I think we can figure it out. So I'll bring up this guy here, and it tells me right on the ruler, this is 2 by 4. Now that's finished. That means a finished without the seam allowance. So I'll lay my 2 by 4 right in the corner here. So 2 by 4 right there. So this line is my 2 by 4 line, and I lay it right there. The Creative Grids are nice. They have the little grippies on the back so they don't slide away. That's nice. So I did that. That says trim 1 right up here. You probably can't see that. Trim 1. So that's my first trim. I'll turn this around now, and I'll find trim 2, and I'll lay my 2 by 4, which is really 2.5 by 4.5 if you include the seam allowance, which you must. All right, so 2.5 by 4.5, and I'll trim that up. And I'll go over to my higher cutting table and trim the rest of these up, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got my 8 flying geese all trimmed and sewed, and so the next thing that we want to do is put our block together. So I'll just lay them out. It actually does tell us how to press the seams. So this row is going to go this way, top and bottom row is going to go that way, and the middle row is going to go that way. All right, so I'm going to, oh, I have to sew these 2 together yet, right here. So I'll get that done, and then I will be putting the block together. So I want to make sure I get the right colors. Sometimes it's just easiest to look at the picture too, the color picture. So it's going to be the red one on bottom and the green one on top. So it's going to be like this instead. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, sew those together, and we'll be right back. Okay, those are sewn together, and without the extra 2 layers in the point here, is sewed together pretty nice. I will be pressing away from the point like this, okay? So I don't want to fold the point back. That's just, again, adding thickness. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to press that way away from the point so I don't have to fold the point back. All right, I'll be right back after I press. All right. You know, this one I didn't do such a good job on sewing it. I am going to take it apart and fix it and see how it didn't come out at that end. I'll be right back. Okay, much better. I still lost a little bit of my point, but my edges are even, and that makes me happier. So now we're going to put our block together. Here is my middle one. Let's see, I think I can zoom out. Yes. So I'll zoom out. So there's the middle block. Notice we fussy cut that. So if you don't know what fussy cut means, that means you take a design in the fabric and you center it. And so I just centered this little piece right there. And this is going to go like this, this, and like that. And then these have the light color block on the outside, pointing out. Like so. So that's going to be pretty. All right, so I'll sew these together and we're almost done. Whenever I have a block that doesn't end exactly where it's supposed to, I give a little bit of a pin right here. And I ease that in. I also have a seam on the other side that it needs to match, so I use my handy dandy stiletto and I hold that middle seam down, and then this little piece right here, see that fullness? I'm just going to ease it in with my stiletto. Take my pin out and do my next one. This one needs a little bit of easing as well. I just ease it in with my stiletto a little bit. I don't know, sometimes maybe I don't cut right or sew perfect. It's usually not too terrible. All right, and this one has a seam right here, so I'm going to match those seams. And this needs to ease in just a hair. It's looking good. Alright. Those are sewed together. And the directions tell us to press to the right on that one, to the left on this one, and to the right, oops, wrong, to the left on this one, and to the right on this one. So I'll just finger press for now, and I'll do a better job when I take it over. So slide those out of my way. And we'll do this side. See, got a little seam to match right there. Get my stiletto out. I got my rows sewn together, And I'm going to take them over to the pressing table here, and I'll get those pressed in the proper direction, and then we'll sew those together. Okay, we're on the downside now. All right, so I've got these pressed in opposite directions so I can match these seams right here, and we'll be done. So right here, I want to match this seam right here. So I'm going to pin that and ease in that fullness. Maybe there we go. So I got a little bit of fullness here. Won't be a problem. I can just ease it in with my stiletto. I don't get any creases in it. It just eases in very nicely. I did go over my pin. I don't usually do that. I'll take it out now. All right, there's that one. I always lay them out again because I don't want to be sewing this to this side or something foolish like that. Ask me how I know. So I'll sew that side together. I have done silly things like that before, so I always relay it out every time I go to grab a new one. I want to make sure it's laid out properly. That one matched up perfectly. This one I'm going to have to ease in a little bit again. I'm not sure why. Probably just because I'm on camera. Eased in just fine right in there. I don't pin right through that thick seam. I pin either behind it or ahead of it. This one is just slightly, it's just not even hardly enough to notice, but some of us have to have it as close to perfect as possible. So I'm matching a seam under here too, so this part needs to ease in a little bit more than I would like, but it's going to work. Okay. There we go. I'll take it over and press. I'll probably press it open. All right, there you have it. The block is finished. So there we have block 3. So thanks for joining. I will post everything down below that I've used, such as the magic wand and all the little gadgets that I used. And so I'll post that down below with links to our website, and you can purchase them there if you don't already have them. Thanks for joining.